Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and it's another new music showcase here on misplacedstraws.com. And my guest today is probably best known for his time in bands like Roxx Gang and a handful of great records with LA Guns. But he's back now with a really cool, unique band called Crashing Wayward. Their debut record, Listen, is out everywhere on June 9th. Please welcome Stacey David Blades. Welcome, Stacey.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Doing great. It's a pleasure to have you.
Good to be
So
here.
now let's start with Crashing Wayward. I mean,
Yeah.
first off, who joined you in the band and how did you guys come together?
So it's kind of an interesting backstory. The band I had before that basically imploded right on the verge of success.
Mm.
And I was like, now what? So the way this kind of came together, it was really a godsend, Jeff. It was, Peter and I, our vocalist,
Mm.
we actually knew each other years ago in the early 2000s. He's from San Diego, California, and he used to come up to LA, and he knew a couple of guys I was in a band with at that time called Smack. And I got to know Peter pretty well, and then we lost touch with each other. So it was a mutual friend that put us in touch with each other after that other band imploded. And I didn't make the connection at first, but when it dawned on me that it was, Pete, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And it was great because, I don't know if I can curse, but Pete's like, don't fuck around. I'm your guy. I'm like, shit, yeah, you are. And then, Jeff, everybody just kind of came into the fold like a godsend. And it was a real blessing how the band started. And so our first two shows were in Vegas and LA right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, and we were like, okay, now what? So we just took that whole year of 2020 to write and demo. And then when the studios here finally opened up that fall,
Mm.
we started recording with producer Mike Gillies, who did the record. And Mike's, he was Metallica's studio engineer for 26 years. He also has worked with Shania Twain, Brian Adams, The Cult, Our Lady Peace, an incredible engineer producer. So 2 years later, we finished the record, and we're really, really happy with the album. Super excited. Signed with RFK Media last fall, and so a little backtrack, Jeff. We had put out Breathe and Disco Kills as singles and videos on our own over 2021 and 22.
Mm.
And so we were really excited to finally get the new single and video out for Closer just a couple weeks ago. So it's good to have new music. And finally, it's like, pinch me, the album is really coming out.
And you mentioned RFK Media, that's Ron
Mhm.
Keel's
Yeah.
company. How did you hook up with Ron? Did you know him from back in the day or?
So our drummer Sean McKee has known Ron for a long time. I got to know Ron when I moved to Vegas he used to live here, when I moved to Vegas 10 years ago from Los Angeles. I believe I had met him a few times prior to that, but really got to know him well here in Vegas. And so when he approached us and said, I'm starting a new label, I'm going to have a staff of four, he was just so blown away by our song Stranger Days,
Mhm.
which we kind of put out only on Bandcamp
Yeah.
uh, as a single. He was just floored by that song that he wanted to sign us. And just knowing Ron as a person and his work ethics, I should say, we just felt like, you know what, there's nobody that's going to work this hard,
Yeah.
for us. We could go with a bigger company, yeah, but this guy is going to work his ass off for us. And he is, so all the ducks are in a row now.
And now I love the sound of this band. I mean,
Mhm.
it's fresh, it's modern. I think the music that you guys wrote to me, it feels like at any time it could kind of veer off into that late 90s industrial thing,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
it makes a, left turn and just something brand new. And with Peter, I think his
Mhm.
lyrics and melodies, they have kind of a Scott Weiland feel, and I don't mean that in
Yeah,
the sound. I mean that in the diversity where he can really go from the heavy stuff like Closer into the
yeah,
melodic like Paper Airplane Heart
yeah,
with
yeah,
ease. And as
yeah,
I'm listening to the record, it's like I love not being able to put my finger on exactly what you're doing because that
yeah.
shows you're doing something new.
Right. Um, that's all, yeah, perfect points too, Jeff. It's very interesting. There's four very strong writers on the span,
Mhm.
and we all have different influences, but that's what makes it so diverse.
Yeah.
So we kind of take a little bit of everything, and throw it in the melting pot,
Mhm.
which is very exciting because I think it separates us from a lot of the newer bands. um, and you can list all these different elements. It's a
Mhm.
little, Stone Temple Pilots, a
Mhm.
little bit Killers, it's a little
Mhm.
bit Shinedown, it's a little bit, elements of U2 and David
Mhm.
Bowie. It's all these cool things that we throw in the pot, and it just comes out the way it is. So
Mhm.
that's been a blessing too, a very exciting thing too
Mhm.
as well, from a musician standpoint. Because every song is different, than it's not just one type of thing through the whole album. You get a lot of different elements. So, there's songs that have almost this heavy Soundgarden Sabbath vibe, to like indie pop,
Mhm.
to elements of U2 or like early 80s new wave,
Mhm.
to kind of punky things. So that's what I love about this band, is it's a
Yeah.
lot of high energy, but then we can be very artsy and eclectic at the same
Mm.
time.
Yeah, it makes for a fun listen because you never quite know what the next song's going to be. So that
Yeah.
it works
Thank
for
you.
me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned you guys had played a couple of shows. Have you
Mhm.
had a chance to sort of get your stage legs under you and, come up with the live versions of these songs yet?
What is great, Jeff, is that we're a fantastic live band.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of bands that, well, they'll make this fantastic record, throw everything and all the bells and whistles, but then when you see them live, you can't. They
Mhm.
don't replicate what they've recorded. Fortunately, with this band, we sound like our records. Pete sounds like he does. He's an
Mhm.
incredible frontman with a voice, and his energy, and when people see us, they're just like, wow, what am I watching? Where did you guys come from? So that was like, we're
Mhm.
good live.
Yeah.
Because
It
I've been in
worked.
bands that weren't. The last band I had was not good live. We
Yeah.
sounded good on record, but it was not good live. So that's been a blessing to have that. We didn't really have to, really put a huge effort. We
Yeah.
just do our thing, and it, you know, like any other thing, you work at your craft. Obviously, we're always like, how can we make this better? How can we make our show? But we just kind of do our thing, and Pete's just got this incredible energy, um, and it really comes across. Back in March, we played a really big show with Puddle of Mud
Mhm.
here in Vegas at Brooklyn Bowl, and there's about like 2,000 people there, and by the second song, we had that crowd wrapped around our
Mhm.
finger. And you never know how you're gonna,
Right.
as an opening
Right.
act, how you're gonna be. But I just knew from the first chord, it's like, you're ours,
Mhm.
you know. So that's kind of way we just come out, Jeff, live. We just come out swinging,
Mhm.
and it's really fun to play these songs from the record. They're just amazing.
Now, once the record's out and people have a chance to hear it, are you guys looking to hook up with another band and going on tour? Are you looking to kind of do
Yes.
your own club dates? Would it a little of both?
In a perfect world, we'd love to get on a tour, because
Yeah.
I think that's our strong point. Is like that, when you put us in front of a good crowd
Mhm.
that's there
Yeah.
to enjoy a
Mhm.
great night of
Mhm.
rock music. That's kind of where we shine. I mean, we of course we've played lots of our own headline
Mhm.
dates, but we really like that 45-minute 50-minute hit him over the head,
Mhm.
high energy time slot. So that's something we definitely want to pursue, is to get on an established tour with an established band of our kind of modern alternative rock.
And one thing too with this album, the cover and the title make a pretty striking
Mhm.
image. I
Yeah.
mean, were you guys looking for a statement with that, or
Yeah, I think that's like all of our songs have really something important to say. Whether it's about, a certain life aspects or suicide, or, being in that dark emotional place of, unrequited love, or we're not really a political band. It's interesting because our song "Disco Kills," people think, "Oh yeah, screw disco, man. That music's." It's like has nothing to do with disco music. It's kind of it's sort of a political song. Now I can't speak for Pete, but like, so Pete always tries to make a statement, whether it's our pictures, or his lyrics, or any imagery that we project. It's like we really discuss it as a band, and we want, everybody's input. It's not a dictatorship in this band. We all collectively come up with ideas, because the original artwork that we were going to go with, we were like, okay, done. It was completely different. It was like a spaceman in a tunnel floating towards an exit sign. I really liked it. I was kind of bummed when we didn't use that. It was a really cool cover, and it didn't have a title,
Mhm.
so we scrapped that idea. And then I think it was Pete was like, "What about this?" That's his daughter actually on the
Oh,
cover.
really?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. She's a model,
Mm.
and my at first it was like, well, why does she have duct tape on her
Mhm.
mouth? So then he explained, well, it's like,
Mm.
in this day and age where everything is so, you can't say this, and
Mm.
we're silenced, and like we can't
Mm.
express ourselves. So it's really kind of a statement of like, we will not be silenced,
Mhm.
you know, as a human race.
Mm.
And I think it's gotten so ridiculous how everything is so politically biased now, and you can't say this, and you can't address that, you can't do this. It's like, what happened?
Mm.
It didn't used to be like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a imagery of like, intolerance as
Mm.
well. And that's why, because somebody might say that, oh, look at that, and have something negative to say
Mm.
about it. You're portraying,
Mm.
this or that. Why she got duct tape over her mouth?
Mm.
And then that's why, we came up with the title "Listen." It
Mm.
was like, well, we need to speak our minds, freedom of speech. I feel
Mm.
that's suffering in this country.
Without a doubt.
So that's kind of what the whole thing about that is like, we won't be silenced, no
Mm.
matter who it is, So that's the imagery and the title "Listen." That's kind of
Mm.
where that is.
And I mentioned in the intro, you got a pretty long history, and it's kind of looking back a little bit.
Mhm.
With Roxx Gang, that band put out some great music, but you never really had that big success that some of the other bands of that time did. Do you
Yeah,
think it was just sort of a little too late in where music was for that band to come out?
I think so. That's a weird thing to always kind of, really dive in and go down
Mhm.
a wormhole, because in '89, that the hard rock thing was still very, very strong going into
Yeah.
even '91. Well, people say, "Oh, well, all that, the LA metal and stuff, that
Mhm.
was dead by '91." It
No.
was no. Poison was headlining stadiums in '91. You know, the Scorpions were headlining
Mhm.
stadiums. It really was overnight. I'd say by mid to late
Yeah.
'92, done.
Mm.
Um, so when you say, oh, that there were certain bands that came out in '89, but they didn't do anything, I think what it was is it got to that point, Jeff, where there was too many
Mm.
bands. So your record buying public, as like a teenager at that time, it goes to a record store, and I can say this from personal experience too. is presented with a whole rack of 10
Mhm.
different bands at the same time, and you're going, uh, I only have $10. Which
Yep.
one do I
Mhm.
buy?
Yep.
So I think that hurt a lot of bands that came out past 89.
Mhm.
Now, of course, there's like a couple of bands I can think of that did very well
Mhm.
in 89, but I think some just fell through the cracks. So
Yep.
I don't think it has anything to do with what was going on at that time
Mhm.
musically.
Mhm.
Now, if you say if a band like that came out in 91, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
They didn't have a chance,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know. And that was a welcome change, to be honest with you, because that type of music became like disco.
Mhm.
It was overkill.
Yeah,
And you
I
see
totally
why,
agree. Yeah.
yeah. And you see why all the teenagers in 92, they all gravitated to this new movement
Mhm.
because it was for years and years and years of, LA type hard rock.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
here's this new move. Oh, this is exciting. This speaks to me more than a guy wearing, purple pants with his
Mhm.
hair a foot off his
Mhm.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a few years back, you had a great book called Confessions of a Replacement Rock Star, and,
Snake Eyes.
yeah, there we go.
That
Now,
was
when you were kind of going through that,
Mhm.
you weren't just a replacement rock star. In LA Guns, you replaced the iconic member of the band. Did you have
I
any?
thought it was a bit of a play on words using that title because a lot of people will say that when they do talk
Yeah.
about the book. I just thought it was a kind of a clever title because
Mm.
most of my career I replaced
Yep.
the original guy.
Mhm.
Um, so it is a little tongue in cheek,
Mhm.
but I just wanted to use that because it was like that was, and I'm very, very grateful that I had
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
opportunities in Roxx Gang and L.A. Guns to replace the original guitar player.
Mhm.
So that's where that moniker
I mean, was there any trepidation about replacing somebody like Tracy, where when you
comes from.
think of LA Guns, that was, the guy you were thinking of, and here you are coming in replacing, the
Yeah,
guy who named the band.
yeah,
Was
yeah.
there that a little different than some of the other jobs?
No, I kind of never really dwelled on that. It was just like, here's a fantastic opportunity that I'm in. Wow, this is amazing. I'm going to dedicate 110% to playing the stuff
Mm.
like it was, to honor that legacy of the catalog, and to really win the fans over. And I think I really did that in my 10 years with that band. And especially it shows, especially with the records I did with them,
Mhm.
especially Tales from the Strip.
Yeah.
So it was more about that. I think once that we cemented that lineup with that album, people were like, wow,
Mm.
okay, you've got my interest
Yeah.
now. We accept it. We accept you. So I think it was more about that, really dedicating myself to, being a part of that band, or a, new point 2.0
Mm.
version,
Mm.
and really just, win the fans over,
Mm.
and be that personable guy, and have the respect of playing everything like it was recorded,
Mm.
the legacy of the catalog. So
Yeah. And you were in the lineup with Phil Lewis and Steve Riley, and
mhm,
if for some of that time, Tracy had his own version of
mhm.
LA Guns. Now we have Phil and Tracy, while Steve has his version with Kelly Nichols. As somebody who went through it, I mean, what are your thoughts when you're out there trying to promote yourselves and get your band going, and former members are out there with the exact same name and confusion and all that? What was it tough for you as a member of the band when there's two of them?
When I was in LA
Yeah.
Guns.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sucked, but we did always did well.
Mhm.
So it was just kind of a more of a hindrance than a huge thing. I mean, obviously, yeah, that's something you don't want if you're in a band and there's another version of it,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
but looking back, we just did our thing, you know,
Mhm.
and we were a great live band as well. So
Yep.
yeah,
Well, we've been spending some time here with Stacey David Blades. The band is Crashing Wayward. The record is called Listen. It's out everywhere June 9th. Got a couple of videos out now for Breathe and Closer and Disco Kills.
yeah,
It's a great band. I'm excited to see where this band goes because it's
me
something
too.
new and it's something different, and it's kind of the shot in the arm that we're looking for. So,
Yeah, what's cool about it, Jeff, is there's so many different elements that, and I think that's why people are really kind of gravitating towards us because they hear something familiar. It's like I can't put my finger on it, but it's like I like because it's a familiar warm blanket, so to
yeah.
speak. So yeah, we're really excited. We've been working really hard for 3 years, so it's really nice to see this thing getting some legs and some
Mm,
steam. So I think the record's going to do very well, and we're really proud of it too.
mm.
So upward and onward.
Yeah, and hopefully we could catch you out here on the East Coast Live sometime
Yes,
soon.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we look forward to that.
Thanks a lot. Best of
Cool.
luck with the record. We'll see
Thank
you
you, Jeff.
soon.
Yeah, take care.